At some point in your life, you've felt it, the quiet discomfort that something isn't right with the way most people live. Maybe it was in the dead silence of an early morning commute or while scrolling past hours of meaningless noise on your phone. You looked around and realized people are sleepwalking through life. Not because they want to, but because no one taught them how to stay awake. Look closer. Most people aren't living, they're complying. They obey rules they never questioned. They accept roles they never chose. They anesthetize themselves with comfort, conformity, and distraction. Like cattle, they move when told, rest when allowed, and live within invisible fences built by fear and habit. They are harmless, and because of that, they are powerless. But you're here. That means you sense it too, that survival is not enough, that comfort is a cage, that the world is not kind, and it's certainly not fair. You know deep down, those who don't rise above the crowd become lost in it, and to rise, you must become something more than just another obedient soul. You must become ungovernable, not through chaos or rebellion, but through self-mastery. Power belongs to those who understand this truth. It does not favor the lucky. It respects the disciplined, the strategic, the educated. And this education is not earned in classrooms. It is earned through relentless study of human nature, of systems of control, and of the psychology of power. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But deeper than that, he taught us, the mind is the last fortress. The world can strip you of possessions, of status, of comfort, but it cannot touch a mind that is fortified. Every book you read becomes a brick in that fortress. Every concept you master, every psychological truth you integrate, these are your weapons. Most will never lift them. Most don't even know they exist. They will live and die without understanding how power operates. But you are building something indestructible, a mind that cannot be manipulated, a strategy that cannot be predicted, a presence that cannot be ignored. And this journey begins now, not with noise, not with flash, but with quiet resolve, with a decision to become dangerous, not through violence, but through wisdom, to dominate, not through force, but through understanding, to shape your reality, not by reacting to the world, but by mastering yourself first. This is the opening of your path, the moment you stop being an observer of life and begin designing it. Welcome to the awakening. From this point forward, the rules are different. You are no longer prey. You are learning to become the predator, not in cruelty, but in clarity. This is the way of the educated few. This is how empires are built within. Imagine the world not as a playground, but as a battlefield. Every conversation is a negotiation, every decision a quiet war. Most people walk through life unaware they're in combat. They smile, they nod, they participate in rituals of politeness, never realizing that influence is being traded, alliances are forming, and decisions are being made that will affect their lives. This ignorance is not harmless. It is fatal. The untrained mind cannot see the battlefield, let alone win on it. But when you begin to educate yourself, when you study human behavior, systems of power, and the psychological levers that drive society, you stop being a pawn. You start becoming the player. Knowledge becomes your armor. Reflection becomes your sword. You begin to notice patterns in behavior, what triggers people, what persuades them, what makes them yield. You read the subtext in a conversation. You detect fear disguised as confidence. You see manipulation in what others call kindness. It's not about paranoia, it's about precision. You become observant in a world that's asleep. But let's make something clear. Reading alone won't get you there. Knowledge without application is decoration. You must test what you learn. In real life, you must fail, adjust, observe, and learn again. Wisdom is not stored in books, it is forged in experience. Read the books, yes, but also watch how people speak in meetings. See how influence is transferred in boardrooms, in negotiations, in politics. Train yourself to anticipate responses, predict behavior, and shape outcomes. That is the beginning of strategic power. This is what some call dark psychology, but at its core, it's emotional discipline paired with mental clarity. It's the ability to detach, observe, and act based on insight, not impulse. You begin to understand that most people are controlled by invisible strings: fear, validation, ego, desire. And once you recognize those strings, you don't pull them maliciously, you pull them surgically. But here's the catch. The deeper you go into this world, the lonelier it gets. Because the more aware you become, the more alien the masses seem. You'll see people consumed by distractions, ruled by their cravings, oblivious to the consequences of their choices. And while you will not judge them, you will not follow them either. You will walk a separate path, one that requires solitude, discipline, and vision. A path where you may be misunderstood, even feared, but never controlled. So commit this to memory. Knowledge is your weapon, and discipline is your edge. You are not here to live in confusion. You are here to dominate your space, to see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. Every day you sharpen your perception, you extend the distance between yourself and the average man. That distance is your power. And that power begins now. Power isn't born from occasional bursts of inspiration. It doesn't arrive through wishful thinking or emotional highs. It is forged through the quiet, consistent ritual of daily discipline, especially the discipline of educating yourself. Every single day, your mind must be fed, trained, sharpened like a blade. Not sometimes, not when convenient, every day. This is where most people fail. They treat their mind like an accessory, not a weapon. They scroll for hours, consume junk content, and waste their mornings in distraction. They live reactively, responding to the noise of the world instead of building something strong inside themselves. The results are predictable: confusion, weakness, mediocrity. But the Machiavellian mind is different. It begins each day with structure. Before the chaos of the world intrudes, you create order within. You sit with a book, a journal, a lecture, not for entertainment, but for preparation. You absorb the strategies of history's great minds. You dissect the decisions of those who failed. You examine your own thoughts and actions, not with shame, but with ruthless honesty. That is how clarity is built. Think of it this way. Every day you educate yourself, you are laying another brick in the fortress of your mind. You are building walls no insult can penetrate, gates no manipulation can breach. But this fortress isn't made of facts. It is made of principles, mental models, strategies, self-knowledge. This is not academic trivia. It is war strategy for the modern mind. Why does this matter? Because ignorance is not neutral. It is enslavement. If you don't train your mind, someone else will. You'll be manipulated by clever headlines. You'll follow the crowd off a cliff. You'll believe what makes you feel good instead of what is true. You'll vote for leaders who don't serve you. You'll be ruled by people who understand you better than you understand yourself. But the man who learns daily, he becomes unpredictable, uninfluenced, unbreakable. He cannot be emotionally swayed by trends or approval. He sees through lies. He hears what isn't said. He operates with depth in a shallow world that is real freedom, and it is reserved only for the disciplined. This path demands sacrifice. It asks you to give up shallow entertainment for sharp insight. It pulls you away from mediocre company. It requires that you trade comfort for clarity. But what you gain in return is beyond measure: a mind that is sovereign, a will that is unmoved, a strategy that unfolds 5 steps ahead of anyone around you. So decide now. Each morning, before the noise of the world reaches you, reach inward, read, reflect, strategize, not once in a while, every day. The men who rule history didn't do it by accident. They were disciplined in their learning, relentless in their preparation, and that is how you must be. Discipline is not just a habit, it is the foundation of power. Write it on your wall, in your journal, in your mind. Discipline builds empires, and if you want to build yours, it begins with what you put into your mind every single day. The world does not wait for the lazy to catch up. It rewards the prepared. So prepare like your life depends on it, because it does. True power doesn't start with control over others. It starts with control over yourself. If you cannot command your own thoughts, emotions, and impulses, how could you ever hope to influence anyone else? This is the first and hardest battle, the internal one. And until you win it, the external world will own you. Modern society trains us to react, to flinch at discomfort, to chase pleasure and avoid pain. But this wiring is dangerous. It leaves you vulnerable, easily manipulated by advertisers, politicians, even friends and family. They push buttons, and you respond, like a puppet. But the Machiavellian mind unlearns this programming. It pauses before reacting. It doesn't obey every emotional impulse. It observes fear, anger, desire, greed, but it doesn't serve them. It uses them. That is the difference between the average man and the man who commands respect. Self-control begins with emotional discipline. Anger, for instance, isn't weakness if used wisely. It's a signal. So is fear. So is desire. But only when you are calm enough to interpret them. Most people are owned by their feelings. The powerful man? He owns his feelings. He calculates before he moves. He acts not when provoked, but when it is strategically sound. That's power. Once you've conquered your inner chaos, you begin to see clearly how easily others are ruled by theirs. People crave approval. They fear rejection. They want to belong. They seek validation from strangers, and that desperation makes them predictable, influenceable, controllable. When you understand this, you begin to lead, not by force, but by design. You learn to guide people without resistance. You don't tell them what to do. You make them feel like it was their choice. That is the art of subtle influence. You study their body language, their insecurities, their blind spots. You hear what they leave unsaid, and you gently push their internal levers until the outcome favors you. But here's what separates a strategist from a tyrant: invisibility. True control never looks like control. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who seems the most harmless. He appears humble, generous, even quiet. But every word is measured. Every silence, intentional. Every smile, calculated. This is why many never see the strike coming, because they never knew a game was being played, and when it hits, they call it luck. But it's not luck. It's mastery. The strategist hides in plain sight. He doesn't seek attention, he seeks outcomes. So remember this: control is not about domination, it's about direction. Your emotions, your habits, your thoughts, they must all serve a vision greater than comfort, and when they do, you become a leader, not because you demand it, but because others recognize in you what they lack in themselves: composure, clarity, and control. Write this down. The man who controls himself earns respect. The man who controls others shapes history. Your job is to do both, but always in that order. Power begins with mastery of the self. Without that, everything else crumbles. So train your mind, train your reactions, and when life tests you, and it will, you'll respond not with fear but with strategy. That is cold power. That is psychological freedom. In a world obsessed with self-expression, the greatest power often lies in what you don't reveal. Secrecy isn't just protection. It's leverage. What others don't know about you, they can't predict. What they can't predict, they can't control. And that alone makes you dangerous in the eyes of the untrained. Most people, in their desperation for attention and connection, overshare. They talk too much. They post every thought online. They reveal their goals before they've earned the ability to pursue them. This may feel honest, even therapeutic, but to the strategist, it is suicide. Every word you release is a piece of your strategy surrendered. Every confession is a weapon placed in someone else's hand. But secrecy is not silence. It is design. A calculated withholding of information. You don't disappear, you mislead. You give just enough to satisfy curiosity, to appear open, to seem relatable. Meanwhile, your true intentions remain locked behind a mask, a crafted image, a version of yourself that is understood but not real. Why is this so powerful? Because in war, and life is war, mystery creates fear. People fear what they cannot understand. They fear what they cannot anticipate. And when you become unreadable, they default to caution. They step carefully. They ask questions instead of making demands. You shift the balance without lifting a finger. Consider the metaphor of a chess game. Amateurs announce their next move with excitement, hoping to impress. Masters reveal nothing. They draw opponents into traps, making them believe they're in control until it's too late. This is not deception for its own sake. This is survival. And in the arena of life, it is strategy that decides who thrives and who is crushed. Secrecy does something else. It multiplies your influence. When people don't know your plan, they imagine one. They fill in the gaps with their own fears or admiration. You become a mirror reflecting their insecurities or aspirations. And the less they know, the more they talk, the more they speculate, And speculation builds myths. Myths build reputations. Reputations build power. But secrecy requires discipline. You must resist the urge to be understood, to be liked, even to be praised, because praise often demands exposure. And exposure is vulnerability. Learn to share only what strengthens your position. Reveal only what reinforces your image. Even your allies should only know enough to execute their role, not enough to compromise yours. Write this into your mind. My silence is my shield. Because the loudest man in the room is often the weakest. He broadcasts his weaknesses while you watch silently, learning, planning. When the moment comes to move, you won't have to announce it. Your silence will have already done the work. This isn't coldness, it's control. It's how the world's greatest leaders, thinkers, and strategists operated. Not with exposure, but with restraint. The loud may get attention, but the disciplined get results. So protect your plans, guard your inner life, and remember, the less they know, the more they fear. The more they fear, the less they interfere. This is the power of secrecy. Learn it, live it, wield it. Hesitation is not harmless. In a world driven by competition, hesitation is death. Every moment you pause without purpose, someone else moves forward. Every decision you delay, someone else makes. And in that stillness, you lose ground. Time does not wait for indecision, nor does power. The Machiavellian understands this. He knows that strength is not just in planning, but in execution. He studies the moment, identifies the opportunity, and acts ruthlessly, without apology. This isn't recklessness, it's clarity in motion, precision without paralysis, action without insecurity. Most people drown in overthinking. They seek perfect conditions before moving. They want guarantees before risk. But perfect moments are fantasies. They never arrive. Life rewards the bold, not the careful. The cautious man reads history. The decisive man writes it. Think of Caesar crossing the Rubicon. There was no safety, no certainty, but he understood a deeper truth. Hesitation weakens the spirit. It erodes confidence. Once you hesitate, you invite doubt, and doubt spreads like a virus, killing momentum, killing influence, killing power. Ruthlessness in decision-making means this: you act when the time comes, and you never look back. You cut away distraction, you eliminate emotional noise, you focus on what must be done, and you do it, cleanly, fully, without flinching. This is not cruelty, it is leadership. Because people follow those who decide. Even when they disagree, they still follow. Why? Because confidence, even when imperfect, is magnetic. Understand this: leadership is not about always being right, it's about never being paralyzed. The world follows certainty. When you make a choice and own it, people rally behind your conviction. But if you waver, if you second guess, you lose their trust. Worse, you lose your own. But ruthlessness also lives inside. It is not only about external decisions, it is the internal commitment to cut away what no longer serves you, relationships that drain you, habits that weaken you, beliefs that limit you. You must be willing to sacrifice comfort for clarity, emotion for strategy, safety for growth, and you must do it quickly. That's what most cannot do. They cling, they hope, they wait. But the man who rises understands. Every minute you hesitate is a minute stolen by someone more decisive. The throne doesn't go to the most moral. It goes to the most willing, willing to act, willing to risk, willing to move. Write this in your bones: hesitation is death, decision is power. You don't need to know every answer. You need to commit, adapt, and execute. That is how progress is made. That is how empires are built, not by the man who considered every angle, but by the man who took the shot while others waited. So the next time you feel the pull of fear, of overthinking, remember this: history forgets the hesitant, but it immortalizes the bold. Be the one who moves when others freeze. Cut clean, move forward, never apologize for decisiveness, because in this world, the hesitant become spectators, the ruthless become legends. Power is not just about what you possess, it's about what others believe you possess. In this game, perception is reality. If people think you're strong, you are. If they believe you're untouchable, they treat you that way. You don't need absolute power, you need the appearance of power, and that changes everything. Understand this: the world does not operate on truth. It operates on belief. Your reputation walks into the room before you do. It speaks louder than your words and lingers longer than your presence. People judge you not by who you are, but by the story they've heard, the image you project, the aura you cultivate. And that image must be crafted with intention. Most people let perception form by accident. They react emotionally, overshare, change faces depending on company. This inconsistency weakens them. It tells the world this person can be figured out, controlled, forgotten. But the Machiavellian crafts perception like an architect designs a fortress, with precision, with strategy, with discipline. To control perception, you must master three things: your composure, your language, and your presence. Composure tells the world you are calm under pressure. Language, when precise and confident, signals intelligence and authority. Presence, how you walk, how you dress, how you carry silence, dictates whether people see you as dominant or invisible. You don't have to be a giant, you have to cast a giant's shadow. Speak rarely, but when you do, speak with weight. Let your actions echo louder than your explanations. Let mystery do the work of intimidation. People are terrified of what they can't define. Think of the great rulers of history. Many weren't the strongest or richest, but they mastered their image. They understood fear and admiration were stronger than truth. They projected inevitability. And people followed, not out of love, but because resistance felt impossible. But perception is fragile. One sign of desperation, one moment of emotional exposure, and the illusion cracks. People don't need reasons to doubt you. They just need a glimpse of weakness. And once that seed is planted, it spreads. That's why every detail matters. Your appearance, your tone, your timing, it all tells a story. Make sure it's the one you want told. There's another truth here. People want someone to follow. They yearn for strength, for certainty, for direction. If you offer it, they will line up behind you. Not because you demanded it, but because you reflected back to them the leader they secretly wished they could be. So remember, controlling perception is not deception, it's leadership. It's theater with real consequences. You are not pretending to be strong. You are presenting strength while you build it. And in time, the line between image and reality disappears. Write this down. I control the image. I control the world. Because when others believe in your power, their behavior bends around it. Their resistance fades. Their submission becomes voluntary. That's how you win without force. That's how you become inevitable. This is the power of perception. Use it with care. Wield it with purpose. And guard it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Love is fragile. It shifts with moods, crumbles under pressure, and fades with time. But fear leaves a mark. It carves itself into memory. It doesn't ask for permission. It demands obedience. This is why Niccolo Machiavelli taught that if you must choose between being loved and being feared, always choose fear. Not because fear is cruel, but because fear endures. But let's be clear, we are not talking about reckless intimidation or sadistic control. That's the path of fools and tyrants. What you must learn is the art of calculated fear, fear used with precision, not impulse. A strategy, not a tantrum. You are not here to scare people. You are here to build a reputation that commands respect, boundaries, and caution. Here's how it works. People must know, even if only subconsciously, that crossing you comes with consequences, not necessarily physical ones. Social, professional, psychological consequences are often more effective and permanent. When someone disrespects you, you respond not with emotion, but with action that teaches a lesson. You don't threaten, you demonstrate. Most people fail here. They want to be liked. They try to earn loyalty through kindness alone. But kindness without power is weakness, and weakness invites challenge. People test what they think is soft, and when you let disrespect slide, it doesn't disappear. It multiplies. But when people see that you respond to betrayal with clarity and decisiveness, they learn. They adjust. They talk about you differently. They carry your name with a level of seriousness that cannot be faked. This isn't about being feared for fear's sake. It's about building a boundary so strong that few will dare cross it. Yet here's the subtlety. Too much fear without respect breeds hatred, and hatred breeds sabotage. Your power must be balanced. You must be feared, but also seen as fair, necessary, irreplaceable. People should respect your ruthlessness, but trust your judgment. They should whisper that you are dangerous, but admit you are just. Use fear the way a surgeon uses a scalpel, not like a child swinging a sword. Deliver it only when needed. deliver it clean, and never explain it. Fear, when diluted with justification, loses its bite. Let your presence, your silence, your history do the talking. What does this give you? Freedom. The man who is loved must constantly entertain. He must keep people happy, explain his decisions, manage everyone's feelings. The man who is feared, on the other hand, needs no permission. His reputation speaks, his silence intimidates, his name carries weight. Write this down. Respect me or fear me. Either way, you obey, because that's the reality of power. It doesn't require affection, it requires acknowledgement. And fear, when used with wisdom and restraint, forces acknowledgement. It creates space around you, space that protects your goals, your peace, your authority. And remember, this isn't about bullying, it's about boundaries. It's about becoming the kind of person no one wants to test twice. That is the essence of strategic fear, not chaos, not cruelty, but calm consequences that echo. So embrace it, balance it with intelligence, let your reputation carry it, not your voice. And when you master this, you'll find something remarkable. Even those who dislike you will protect you, because they fear what happens if you fall. That's the power of calculated fear, cold, clean, and unforgettable. Every empire, every dynasty, every enduring legacy begins with one thing: a fortress, a place of strength, defense, and command. But for you, that fortress isn't made of stone or steel. It's built inside your own skull. It is the mind, fortified, disciplined, and untouchable. This is your most important stronghold. Lose it, and everything else collapses. Most people leave their minds wide open, like an unguarded city. They let fear walk in. They let gossip settle in. They let criticism tear down the walls. And then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, manipulated, and directionless. But the truth is simple. They never built defenses. They never learned to guard the gate. Your job is to become the gatekeeper of your mind. You choose what enters. You decide what strengthens you and what weakens you. That begins with disciplined input. What you read, what you watch, what you listen to. Every piece of information is either a brick in your fortress or a crack in your foundation. Choose carefully. Next comes emotional discipline. You will face pain, rejection, uncertainty, criticism. But you will not let them define you. You will feel them, but you will master them. You'll use fear as fuel, not a chain. You'll convert pain into perspective. You'll let criticism sharpen your vision, not destroy your self-worth. That's how you build inner strength, by facing storms and learning to remain still. Stoicism becomes your iron gate. It is the refusal to be ruled by emotion. It's not about feeling nothing. It's about letting nothing control you. You watch your reactions the way a general watches his troops. You do not let panic dictate strategy. You do not let comfort override mission. You remain centered, always. But the fortress is not just defense. It is a command center. It's where you analyze, where you plan, where you sharpen your instincts and make decisions without interference. While others drown in chaos, you see patterns. While others panic, you move with precision. This is where clarity lives, in the stillness of a fortified mind. Here's the truth most can't handle. Building this fortress is lonely. It requires silence, reflection, isolation. You'll pull away from distractions, from people who drain you, from noise that pollutes your thinking. And yes, it will feel like solitude. But that solitude is strength in disguise. It's where you train in peace for the war that is life. And when the storms come, and they will, you won't flinch. While others break, you endure. While they seek escape, you seek advantage. While they beg for comfort, you thrive under pressure. Why? Because you've already faced the enemy inside. And once you conquer your own mind, no one else can. Write this deep into your identity. My mind is my fortress. Repeat it, live it, build it every day, guard it every hour, because once you rule your mind, you are no longer at the mercy of the world. You don't need external permission to feel powerful. You don't need validation to feel grounded. You stand on your own foundation, solid, sharp, unshakable, and from that fortress, you do what few ever do. You design your reality instead of reacting to it. You become the storm others prepare for. This is the mental stronghold of the powerful. Construct it brick by brick, then rule from within. This is the end game. Everything before now, your education, your discipline, your emotional mastery, your command of perception and secrecy, It's all been preparation. Preparation for the final transformation, becoming untouchable. What does that mean? It means walking through the world with such inner stability that nothing external can truly harm you. Betrayal can't break you. Loss can't shake you. Criticism can't penetrate you, because you are no longer reactive. You are sovereign. To be untouchable is not to be invincible. It's to be unbreakable. It's not about arrogance. It's about composure. When you are untouchable, your power comes from the inside. You don't chase approval. You don't explain your moves. You don't beg for understanding. You move deliberately, speak with precision, and act with finality. You don't dominate others through force. You dominate the environment through mastery of yourself. While others react to emotions, you observe them. While others flinch under pressure, you lean into it. While others chase validation, you control outcomes. You've built the fortress. Now you command from within. The untouchable man is feared, yes, but he is also respected. He is quiet, but never passive. His silence speaks louder than most men's shouting. He's unpredictable, not because he's erratic, but because no one truly knows what drives him. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need to be understood. He only needs to win. And he does. Understand this: people cannot manipulate what they cannot read, they cannot hurt what they cannot reach, and they cannot stop what they cannot anticipate. When you become untouchable, you become a mystery wrapped in discipline, cloaked in strategy, and people, consciously or not, begin to orbit around you. You'll notice something strange. People begin to respect your silence. They check themselves before speaking. They listen when you do speak, not because you demanded it, but because your presence changed the dynamic. You are no longer part of the herd. You have risen above it. But this transformation has a cost. You will outgrow many people. Old friendships will fade. Shallow entertainment will lose its pull. You'll stop caring about things that once consumed you. This is not loss. It's evolution. Because what you gain is far more powerful: independence, clarity, control, and the ability to shape your reality on your terms. Write this with conviction: I am becoming untouchable. Say it until you believe it, because this is not a fantasy, it is a discipline. You earn it through repetition, reflection, and relentless self-respect. You get there by mastering each part of the path: knowledge, control, discipline, strategy, perception. And when you reach that level, something rare happens. Life no longer controls you. You control life. Not every moment, not every outcome, but the direction, that's yours. The pace, yours. The legacy, yours. So now, ask yourself, will you continue building the fortress, mastering your emotions, crafting your presence, and making yourself untouchable? Or will you slip back into the noise, into comfort, into surrender? The choice defines your future. Because the untouchable man isn't born. He is built. Brick by brick, battle by battle, decision by decision, and once he arrives, there is no going back. This is the path. Walk it. Own it. Become it. At this point, you are no longer seeking to be understood. You are seeking to command, not through volume, but through vision. And the man who truly commands doesn't do it by proving himself. He does it by becoming inevitable. Every word, every movement, every decision carries weight because it comes from a center that cannot be moved. This is where true authority is born, from within, not without. It isn't granted. It isn't voted on. It's earned in silence, in self-control, in repeated decisions to rise when others fold. And once you possess it, people feel it before they understand it. They sense it in your calm, in your stare, in your refusal to be shaken. You begin to notice the difference. While others are addicted to reaction, you respond with purpose. While they explain themselves endlessly, you speak less and mean more. You no longer argue to be right. You direct to be effective. You don't persuade. You position. You let others reveal themselves while you remain the constant. The untouchable man becomes a mirror. He reflects the fears and weaknesses of those around him. People project onto him what they lack, what they desire, or what they fear. And that makes him powerful. Not because he manipulates them, but because he doesn't need to. That's the paradox. The less you chase power, the more it collects around you. Because true power doesn't beg, it doesn't chase. It draws in. People are drawn to what they can't define. They're intrigued by what doesn't flinch. They're loyal to what doesn't need them. And you, if you've followed this path, are becoming that. But beware of comfort. The danger now is not weakness, it's success. When you begin to feel untouchable, the temptation to relax will grow, to ease your standards, to enjoy the fruits before the work is done. This is when men fall, not at the bottom, but near the top. Complacency is the final enemy. So stay vigilant, continue refining your thoughts, reinforce your habits, audit your circle, protect your time like it is your life because it is. Remain a student, always. Power is not a destination, it is a practice, and the day you stop practicing is the day you begin losing. Write this now. Power is maintained through vigilance. Say it again. Believe it. Let it guide you through the temptations of success. Because the wolf that rests while the hunt is still on becomes prey, and you are not prey. Not anymore. You've come too far for that. Your mind is sharp, your strategy is layered, your presence is commanding. But what matters now is what you do next. You're not here to plateau, you're here to ascend, not just to survive this world, but to shape it. This is your edge. Most are still waking up while you've already taken the field. Most are chasing illusions while you're crafting outcomes. And that edge only sharpens with repetition, discipline, ruthlessness, reflection. So hold the line, build higher, move smarter. And most importantly, remain untouchable, not by holding on to power, but by continuing to evolve beyond it. Because the moment you think you've arrived is the moment someone else starts catching up. Stay ahead. Stay dangerous. Stay in command. By now, you've felt it, the shift. You no longer see the world the way you once did. You're no longer seduced by every new trend, distracted by every empty opinion, or shaken by every wave of resistance. You've separated from the herd. You've stopped reacting. You've started designing. This is the realm few ever reach, not because it's hidden, but because it demands transformation. And transformation requires pain, of letting go, of shedding identity, of walking alone. Most will never make that trade. But you have. And that trade is now becoming your leverage. People will start to notice. They'll sense something different. You'll walk into rooms and the air will shift. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you no longer need to. You've detached from the need for validation. You've become anchored. And that anchor draws attention, respect, even fear. But don't mistake attention for progress. This stage is seductive. The compliments, the recognition, the silence when you speak, all of it can tempt you into complacency. Don't let it. The goal is not to be admired. The goal is to stay in motion, in mastery. You didn't come this far to become visible. You came to become unshakable. So sharpen the blade again. Revisit your principles. Audit your habits. Clean up your environment. Study harder. Reflect deeper. The fortress must be maintained, the strategy refined, because at this level the attacks are subtle, not direct assault but distraction, not enemies but flattery, not noise but comfort. The man who rises and stays risen is the one who builds not for applause but for legacy. He isn't driven by how others see him. He's driven by what he knows he must become. That is where your focus belongs, on the vision. On the version of you that still waits on the other side of discipline. You must become your own architect, your own general, your own counsel. You've gathered the tools. Now build with them, every day, brick by brick. Not because you're chasing a throne, but because you're becoming the kind of man who doesn't need one to rule. Write this into your creed. My discipline protects my legacy. Let that guide you when fatigue whispers, when mediocrity invites you back, when old habits try to return. Let it remind you that ease is not your ally. Momentum is. You are no longer trying to prove yourself to the world. You are proving yourself to yourself. Every morning, every decision, every silence you choose, every time you listen instead of react, every time you delay gratification, that is the new standard. And remember, power isn't a moment. It's a way of being. It's not just a title. It's a state of readiness, of clarity, of restraint. You've earned the right to call yourself powerful only if you refuse to be ruled by others, by emotions, by circumstances. This is the phase where legends are made. Not because they are worshipped, but because they are consistent. You've done the hard work. Now do the invisible work, the quiet repetitions, the unseen decisions, the moments that no one praises but that shape everything. You are not finished. You are just becoming. Stay focused, stay refined, stay untouchable, because what's coming next requires even more of you. There comes a point where the world no longer challenges you in the same way. You've fortified your mind, you've sharpened your discipline, you've mastered your impulses. But here's the catch. The world will now test you through subtlety. Not direct conflict, but friction. Not war, but whispers. This is the phase of psychological endurance, where the danger isn't failure, it's dilution. Your focus begins to drift. Your standards start to relax. You start tolerating things you once rejected. That's how the decay begins, not with collapse, but with compromise. Understand this, power must be maintained, and maintenance is harder than ascension, because once you're at the top, the fight is no longer external, it's internal, against complacency, against pride, against softness disguised as peace. You'll be tempted to take credit too early, to let people into your inner world who haven't earned the right, to believe your own myth. But the untouchable man never stops watching himself. He audits his motives, he questions his assumptions, he sharpens his clarity even when no threat is visible. Because that's the difference between power and permanence. Many reach power. Few make it last. You want to be the latter, you want to endure. That requires discipline even in seasons of ease, especially in seasons of ease. It means raising your standards even when no one is watching. It means staying grounded when the world tries to lift you onto a pedestal. You are not here to be celebrated. You are here to be effective. You are not here to please. You are here to shape. Let that distinction guide you. Applause is noise. Legacy is substance. One fades, the other stays. So ask yourself, what am I tolerating that weakens me? What habits have slipped? What distractions have crept in? Where have I settled for less than excellence? These are not questions of insecurity. These are questions of command. You ask them because you refuse to let your crown rust. Write this now. Comfort is the enemy of power. Let it sink into your nervous system. Let it remind you that you must remain vigilant not only against the world, but against yourself, because the most dangerous man is not the one who wins once. It's the one who stays sharp long after others stop trying. That's your edge, that's your obligation, and that's your responsibility to yourself. You didn't come this far to be comfortable. You came to become something few ever dare to become, enduring, precise, unshakable. So keep refining, keep rising, keep separating, because the further you go, the lonelier it gets. But that loneliness, that is the price of sovereignty. And if you've made it this far, you already know it's worth it. There is a silence that comes with mastery. Not the silence of uncertainty, but the stillness of command. You've walked through fire. You've sharpened your thinking. You've stripped away weakness, layer by layer. And now you begin to operate from something deeper, something unshakable. The world no longer feels loud. It feels predictable. You see patterns others don't. You hear what's not said. You anticipate before others react. This is not arrogance. It's calibration. Your mind has adjusted to a higher frequency. You're no longer chasing power. You are channeling it. At this level, words become fewer but more dangerous. Movements become smaller but more impactful. Presence becomes more important than persuasion. You don't need to explain who you are. People feel it. They adjust to you. They make space for you. Not because you demand it, but because they instinctively know they should. But don't be mistaken. This is not the end. This is simply the next beginning. Because with greater clarity comes greater responsibility. Now, your actions have more weight, your influence has more reach, your silence has more volume, and your mistakes, if you allow them, can cut deeper. So what do? You refine, you remain vigilant, you protect your peace as if it were your kingdom, because it is. You control who gets access to your time, your thoughts, your energy, not out of pride, but out of precision. You know what distraction costs, you know what dilution destroys. You've stopped looking for motivation, you live by principle. You don't wait for good days, you create them. You don't need permission to act. You choose, you lead, you adapt, you execute. And while others look for shortcuts, you've learned the long game is the only game worth playing. This is where legacy begins, not with fame, but with alignment. You begin to ask bigger questions, not just, what can I gain, but what do I stand for? What will I leave behind? Because power without purpose corrodes, but power with clarity, that shapes history. Write this now. My stillness is my strength. Let it remind you that you no longer need to react, prove, or chase. You move from center, from depth, from choice. You are no longer part of the chaos. You are the calm inside it. Others will call it luck. Some will call it arrogance. But you'll know the truth. This is the result of relentless work, quiet work, unseen work. The kind no one claps for, but that shapes everything. And because of that, your path will not be crowded, but it will be clear. You are not just surviving this world. You are bending it, quietly, intentionally, one thought at a time, one decision at a time, one standard at a time. This is what it means to become untouchable. Not flashy, not loud, but permanent, like stone, like legend. And you're almost there. One more step remains, the final shift, the one that changes everything. This is it, the final threshold. Everything you've built, every strategy, every sacrifice, every moment of discipline has led here. To the realization that true power isn't about what you control, it's about what no longer controls you. You're no longer chasing strength, you are strength. Not because you dominate others, but because you cannot be dominated. Not by fear, not by failure, not by opinion. You've become sovereign, internally governed, unmoved by chaos. This is what it means to be truly untouchable. And now, the world opens to you differently. Opportunities appear not because you seek them, but because you attract them. People trust your presence without knowing why. They feel safe around you, but also cautious, because they sense that beneath your calm is something powerful, something precise, something permanent. This is not about ego, it's about alignment. You've aligned your actions with your values, your time with your mission, your emotions with your logic. You're no longer in conflict with yourself, and that peace radiates outward. It commands without effort, it influences without speaking. But remember, this is not the end. This is your foundation. You've reached the level where most stop, but you keep refining. You revisit your principles, you simplify, you subtract what's unnecessary, you listen more, you move less, and when you move, it changes everything. You become a force, not by force, but by design. You are no longer in the game. You are the one designing the board, the one others watch, the one others try to understand but never quite can. You've become the blueprint, not the follower. So now, one final question remains. What will you do with this power? Will you hoard it, or will you build something greater than yourself? Because true mastery isn't just about survival, it's about legacy. About building systems, structures, and minds that live beyond your presence. Write this down, not just as a mantra, but as a promise to yourself. My power is inevitable. Because it is. Not through luck, not through noise, but through years of unseen, disciplined work. Through clarity, through courage, through calm execution. And if you've made it here, if these words resonated, stirred something deep inside you, then you know this isn't just content. This is a call, a challenge, a transformation. So take a breath, and when you're ready, claim it. Like this video if it lit a fire in you. Subscribe to the channel if you're ready to walk this path further. And in the comments below, write what this journey awakened in you. Speak it, own it. Let others know there are still minds out there building fortresses. This is not the end. This is the beginning of your reign. Now go build the kingdom.